Hello, beautiful people. Hope everybody's had a great week. I want to say thank you guys for coming along for the ride and listening, watching, paying attention. All the feedback, you guys are awesome. So I really appreciate the support. So let's get down to business. As most of you know, I lost a good friend this week, my buddy Renzo. A couple hours after I posted my last video, Renzo had an episode, and it ended up being the end of our journey together. So I really want to say thank you guys very much. Those of you that reached out to me, I got a ton of calls and text messages, and a lot of people sent me pictures and videos and stuff of Renzo. So I really appreciate that. He was a really good friend of mine, really good companion, and it was really hard to lose him. I definitely cried more this week than I anticipated. Nobody ever expects that kind of thing to happen, and I've lost a couple dogs in the past couple years, and it doesn't get any easier. I think anybody that is a pet lover, dog lover, knows that feeling and how difficult it can be. So, kind of a rough week. It was one of those weeks where it seems like time is going by really fast. Things are happening really fast, but at the same time, it seems like it drags on. So it's a really weird dynamic where your brain's just really busy, but time's going by really slow. I don't know. It's kind of weird, but I promised you guys I would make a couple of shorter videos this week, and I didn't keep that promise. So I apologize, and I'll definitely do better this week. And trying some new audio. So let me know how the audio sounds. If this is better than those AirPods, let me know if it sounds better, and hopefully blocks out some of the background noise with the trains and me doing my laundry. I got to multitask, get everything done. But anyway, I got a couple quick things I'll go over. And like I said, I want to make a shorter video and then try to make a couple more shorter videos during the week. So we'll see how that goes. I know 30 minutes is a long time to try to commit to one of these things. So try to make them shorter so you guys can, those of you that are paying attention or watching or listening or enjoy listening to me ramble, can listen in smaller blocks. But something that came to mind this week was, like I said, losing Renzo was a difficult thing for me. Like I said, I cried more than I expected to. And I'm still in that phase where it's not exactly 100% real. I'm still like looking for him in his spot. And he's not there, or I'm still not used to breaking the routine of going for our walks that we typically go on. Even this evening, I went outside and kind of walked our normal path, and the path that we typically go is grown over with like weeds and stuff. And it was surprising how quickly that happened. He's only been gone, pretty much a week. Right now, he's been gone about a week, and our path that we typically walk is already overgrown with grass and weeds. And it's just crazy how quickly that happens, and how things will just constantly keep moving and keep going regardless of where you are or what you're doing with your life. The world is going. The world's going to continue on and move, and grass is going to grow. The sun's going to come up. The sun's going to go down. People are going to live their lives no matter what. So just kind of a realization that just because I haven't been mentally, sharp the past week or so, life goes on, the world goes on, and you got to keep moving. You got to keep focused, because if you lose focus, things are going to happen without you. So it was just kind of a stark reminder, just seeing that path, our little trail that's already overgrown with grass and weeds. Is kind of surprising that it happened that quickly. But a little bit about, I think I've told you guys before that my relationship with my dogs was really kind of not necessarily unique to me, but my relationship with them taught me a lot about myself. And they say that dogs take on the personality of their owners. And I think really what it is that kind of like say, for instance, like a horoscope. I don't know if anybody's ever seen The Social Experiment, where a teacher passed out to her class everybody's horoscope based on their sign, and everybody read their horoscope in silence. And then after everybody had a chance to read their horoscope, she asked, I think one or two of the students to stand up and read their horoscope in front of the class. And what they found out was that everybody's horoscope was actually the same. And what people do in their mind is they attach themselves to certain things that they view to be true. So anything in that horoscope that reminds them of themselves or could be true about them, they attach themselves to, and they're like, oh my gosh, this horoscope is real. And then things that don't exactly line up with who they are or their path, somehow their brain will just block that untrue part out. So it was just a a crazy thing how all these students were like, yeah, this horoscope sounds just like me, when oddly enough, the horoscope was the same for everybody, but everybody related to the things in the horoscope that were theirs, and they just mentally blocked out the things that didn't relate to them. So I think when it comes to like our relationship with our pets, particularly dogs, when they say that the dogs take on the personality of the owner, I think as the owner of the dog, I think we just see ourselves in certain ways, in certain behaviors in a dog, and we that's what makes us think that the dog takes on our personality, when really it's just one or two little things, three or four little things, that remind us of ourselves, and then we say that dog is like us in a lot of ways. And I've had three dogs at one time, and I could see myself in different ways in each one of these animals, and I could relate to them differently in different ways. So that created a different bond for me with each one, and my bond with Renzo was very different than the bond I had with my other two dogs. And I tried to describe this to one of my friends this week. And my bond with Renzo was unique in the way that Renzo was a very difficult dog. He was probably the biggest challenge I ever had in my life. It was the longest relationship I had with somebody or something that seemed like it was in constant, I don't want to say conflict, but constant disagreement. I'm very hard-headed, I'm very stubborn, and I want to do things my way. And I try to force the world around me to see things my way. I want to do things my way. I want things to be a certain way because this is how I think they should be. And I try to force the world around me to accommodate my personal preferences. And something about Renzo that I learned from him, and I've probably learned this from other people as well, and I start to see it more in people, I think, from my relationship with Renzo. But there was no changing Renzo. There was no, I mean, and he was very trainable. He was very much, he loved attention, he loved affection, he loved treats. So he was trainable. He would do lots of things I could teach him to do, but there was this side of him that was completely untrainable. There was this wild part of him that I could never reach, I could never get in touch with. And it wasn't his rebellion to my command or my needs or my preferences or whatever. He wasn't rebelling. He was just so unique in himself that it was just impossible to change. I don't know how else to describe it. He just had, it was just him. And I could see myself in him that way, that there are parts of me that are wild enough that cannot be changed. They cannot be tamed. They cannot be, I'm hard-headed in some ways that's just who I am. And those things cannot and will not ever change. I can't fix them even if I wanted to. And as obedient as Renzo was, and people saw him, he had great, for the most part, he had great recall, unless he was trying to chase a bunny or try to go get sprayed by a skunk, or if he saw another dog or something, he wanted to go greet the dog. So his recall was terrible if he saw another dog or a cat or something. So, but for the most part, he was very obedient. He would do whatever, he would listen to commands. He was very obedient. I walked him almost his entire life without a leash or a collar. Like he would just walk with me. You know what I mean? So it wasn't that he was just a wild animal that couldn't be tamed. There was just a part of him that I could not reach and I could not communicate with and I could not change. And it helped me see that in myself, that there are just parts of me that I cannot change. And it helped me understand myself in a way that his stubbornness in a very few small ways that I could not change, or I could not impact, whatever those 4 or 5 little things were, it helped me grow as a person to accept him the way he was in those areas. And for years, like most of his puppy years, I tried to force that out of him in any way that I possibly could, until I finally gave up. It finally clicked with me, and I finally understood that Renzo is not me. He is not going to do everything the way I want him to do it. He's his own creature. He is his own person. He is his own thing. And he has an independence, and he has preferences and thoughts, and he's just wired a certain way. And that cannot be changed. That cannot be undone. So no matter how much I wanted to force my preferences on him, it was never going to happen. And it helped me understand people better in a way, in the sense that I look at people in that through that same lens now, where I didn't have that before. I look at people like there are preferences, there are things that people are that cannot change, and it helps me accept people as for who they are, because I've always wanted to, like I said, change the world and change people around me to my personal preferences and do things the way I want to do them. And just having Renzo in my life for almost 12 years, 12 years of being with a stubborn creature and a stubborn person or a stubborn being really helps you take your foot off the gas and just accept somebody and accept a dog or a person for who they are. Even if you don't agree with who they are or how they are, it's a form of acceptance that the world is not here to adapt to us. It's not going to. There's too many people, there's too many creatures. The world is going to keep going. The grass is going to keep growing. The weeds are going to keep growing. The sun's going to keep coming up. The world is moving forward, and we can't expect the world to adapt to our preferences and every single thing, every single preference that we have. The world is not going to adapt to it. And Renzo was an excellent teacher. I don't think he did it on purpose, because it was, like I said, there were some very frustrating years that we had together, but I know that part of the reason why God put him in my life was for that lesson. And it took me a long time to get it, and I'm still learning it. But had Renzo not have come into my life, I know for sure I would not have learned that lesson or have ever even thought of the ability of accepting people for who they are and not trying to constantly go around and change their minds and change the way they do things or change the way they think. And having him in my life for that long taught me a very valuable lesson of acceptance. And like I said, I know God put him in my life for many reasons, but that was definitely one, is that he taught me to accept things that I cannot control, to accept things that are beyond my control, and to accept just acceptance in general, that to accept people and beings and systems and wildlife or anything, to just accept things and not try to push my personal preferences on every aspect of my life. And to stop and listen. I'm going to try to cut this one short, I promise. But to stop and listen, and when I say stop and listen, I guess the analogy I use is I worked in telecom for, I don't know, about 5 years or so, and in telecom I learned some very, very, very valuable lessons there too. But one of the lessons I learned very early on is telecom works on phone lines just as much as a landline. A whole bunch of behind the scenes nonsense you don't need to hear about, but your cell phone does go through copper lines. It does go through regular telephone lines. Okay, so without explaining that whole story, the reason why I'm telling you that is copper telephone lines. You just think like back in the day when there were just landlines. You think that you pick up the receiver of your phone and you dial a number and you're connected to another person, and there's a single line that goes between you and this person, and you're communicating on a line. And that's actually not true. There's actually two lines. There's two lines that make up a telephone line. And that the reason for that is that there is a transmission line and a reception line, a receiving line, a transmit and receive. So that's something I learned in telecom, is the phone lines are two lines, transmit, receive. And in short, it's called a tip and a ring. So a tip and a ring. It's just short for transmit and receive. But anyway, those two lines are required for communication, for verbal communication, and really any type of communication whatsoever. There has to be a transmit and there has to be a receive. And most of our lives, we spend most of our time concerned with ourselves, our own needs, our own preferences, and we're concerned with the transmission portion of our message. We're so busy trying to convey a message to other people, whether it be in personal relationships, family relationships, marital relationships, business relationships. We're so busy trying to get our message across because we think it's a single line of communication, our words leaving our mouth to get to that person. It's important to us that this person understands us and knows where we're coming from and what we're trying to say, that we completely disregard and do not think about that there is a second line a part of this communication cycle, the receive line, and that's receiving information. And if either one of those lines is broken, then there can be no communication. If you fail to receive, if your communication style is a one-way street where it's only transmit, 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 and you do not receive, the communication is a complete failure. There's some technical terms behind what that failure is called, but there's a breakdown in communication if there is no reception, because part of testing this telephone line is a ping, and a ping is literally just sending a signal to a destination, it hitting that destination and returning the same signal. That ping confirms that there is a transmit and a receive, and if that ping fails, then there's a breakdown in communication somewhere. And with my relationship with Renzo, a lot of it was me trying to transmit, and me not receiving the information back from him. I wanted to force me onto him, and it was a broken line of communication because I was trying to transmit my wants and needs and desires on him, and I failed to receive. And I see this a lot now, and I pay a lot closer attention to it, whether I'm dealing with, whether it's friends or family or a business relationship or a salesperson that's trying to sell our business a service, or I was at a city council meeting recently, and a lady came up and spoke before the city council, and it was 100% transmit. You could tell based on what she was saying and how she was saying it that this was a one-way conversation. There was no receive. There was no middle ground to be found. It was her position was 100% right. Our position was 100% wrong, and she was going to tell us why she was 100% right. The ping was one way. It was never going to be any kind of open conversation for her to receive any side of, hey, did you think about this other side of the story? It was 100% her attacking us, and there was no room for communication backward. There was no room for conversation. It was literally just basically chastising us, transmit, and then when it came time to receive information, to receive feedback, she's long gone. And you can just tell, and it's sometimes somebody's not ready for that. Sometimes it's maturity. Sometimes it's somebody's heated. They just need to calm down. Sometimes they're angry. They just need to calm down. So sometimes it's in the moment, but a lot of times you can tell it's the person. The person is in a transmit only mode, and they are not open to reception. It's a one-way street. And I've learned, because I used to try to force my transmit whenever their receive is broken. There's a train coming by, so we're going to put this new microphone to the test, okay? But I used to try to force that other line of communication to work. I would try to force it, and it would cause bigger problems. Like if I would have tried to force a conversation with this lady, or if I would try to force a conversation with Renzo, it only compounded the problem, made the problem worse, because this person wasn't open to reception. Renzo wasn't open to reception in certain areas. So transmit and receive is probably something we don't think about, is that it's a two-way street. And a lot of times like I said, we're so stuck on, I'm watching my time, we're so stuck on making sure our message gets out there that we fail to realize that there's a message that has to come back. And we may not have to agree with that message. We may not even have ever considered it before. It may not even be true to us or for us. And it may not even be real. It may not even be factual. It could be a fairy tale. But if we're not even open to hearing it, at least understanding where this other person's coming from, then there's really no point in trying to have a conversation, because nobody's, even if you don't come to the conversation with the intent of having your mind changed, you could come to a conversation with concrete in your brain and say, I'm going to believe this no matter what. I'm willing to listen, but I'm not going to change my opinion. But at least if you're willing to listen, whatever gets said to you that day, that moment, it may not sink in right away, but it may catch up to you someday, and it may help you understand where somebody else is coming from. Even if you don't agree with this person or the next person or another person 10 years from now, at least you'll have a better understanding of what this person's thinking and why they think it, if you're open to receiving that information. So I'm going to cut it short. And like I said, I'll try to give you guys a few more minutes a little bit later in the week. And like I said, I appreciate you guys for listening, watching, paying attention. I appreciate the support. And I hope this is valuable to you. Hopefully it means something. If there's something you want to hear about, something you want to talk about, you guys can pick the content of the video. If you want to talk about books, if you want to talk about finance, if you want to talk about politics, whatever it is, let me know. I'm game. I'm curious. Anything, conspiracy theories, stuff I don't know about, I'd love to listen to. But yeah, let me know what you guys want to hear. Let me know what you guys want to talk about. If this is interesting, let me know. If it's boring as hell, let me know. But I appreciate you guys for paying attention. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. You guys are awesome. And like I said, I really appreciate the support. And thanks to all of you that reached out. When I took Renzo to the Rainbow Bridge this week. So thank you guys for your support. You guys are awesome. I love you, and take care of you. Take care of yourselves, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.